We're here, as a matter of fact, because of death. You know, death seems to be a very popular thing going on around us today. Everywhere you look, you hear the TV's talking about death, this coronavirus thing. And so if everybody's talking about death, I want to talk about death today. We'll talk about death. And I want to tell you today about what two experts said about death. Now, the first expert is a guy by the name of Solomon. And Solomon lived 4,000 years ago, a long time ago. And Solomon was a great king. He was rich beyond anything you could imagine. He was powerful. He was a great builder. He made Jerusalem into a magnificent city. And he was a great person in commerce, a great businessman. And he had deals done all over the world. Wait a minute, you say. Why would it just another great king or another businessman or a rich guy, why would we believe what he had to say about death? Well, Solomon had one other thing about him that made him one of the best experts on death that ever lived. Because when Solomon was about to become king of Israel, God appeared to him. And God said, Solomon, what do you want? I'll give you anything you want. Whoa. God asks you, what do you want? I'll give you anything. What would you say? So, maybe let's get rid of this stinking coronavirus. Or maybe you'd say, I want to get better. I hate being here. I hate being sick. But you know what Solomon asked for? Solomon said this. He said, God, I'm about to be the ruler of your people. And there's so many of them, God. How will I know what to do? This is a really hard task. But God, please give me wisdom to lead your people. And that's what God did. God made Solomon the wisest person that ever lived. And that's why Solomon can be considered an expert upon death. Because he was the wisest man that ever lived. And he studied death. And he wrote down a book that's in the Bible. And the book is called Ecclesiastes. And in this book of Ecclesiastes, Solomon wrestled with the purpose of life, and he wrestled with death. And here's what Solomon found out. First of all, I want you to know Solomon hated death. It was revolting to him. He hated death. And he was afraid of death. And he found 3 truths about death that he wrote about in his book. First of all, everybody dies. That was grievous to Solomon. He said, how can it be? I'm the wisest guy that ever lived, and my fate is the same as the dumbest person that ever lived. We're both going to die. I'm the richest guy around. My fate's the same as the really poor people. We're all going to die. Men, women, everyone is going to die. The second thing that he found out was that you can't take it with you. He said, you come into this world with nothing, you leave it with nothing. All these riches. This is grievous. I can't take any of my riches with me. But that's true. You come in with nothing, you're going to go out with nothing. And the third thing that he found out, he couldn't even control his time of death. When he says, when God says it's your time, it's your time. There's nothing you can do about it. So Solomon found out 3 truths about death. Number 1, everybody's going to die. Number 2, you can't take it with you. Number 3, God's going to decide when it's time for you to die. So based on these truths, Solomon made recommendations. He said, enjoy the time that God gives you in this life. He said, enjoy it to the maximum that you can. Enjoy the time that God gives you. He said, God gives you work to do. Whatever that work is, enjoy it. Do it as good as what you can, because that'll give you fulfillment and satisfaction in life by doing the work that God gives you to do. He said, enjoy your work. He said, enjoy your food. Enjoy the food and drink. It's a great gift from God. He said, enjoy your family and your friends because they're great gifts from God. He said, just enjoy it. Enjoy life. That's the limited number of days that you have. I want you to read Solomon's conclusion to all his study on death. This is Solomon's conclusion from Ecclesiastes. He said this, in conclusion, when all has been heard, the conclusion is this: fear God and keep his commandments, because this applies to every person. For God will bring every act to judgment, everything which is hidden, whether it is good or evil. Solomon said, fear God and obey his commandments. Well, here's a summary of what Solomon said. Solomon hated death and he was afraid of death. He said everybody dies. Everyone dies. You can't take it with you. But enjoy the good things that God has given you, because God is the person that decides when it is time for you to die. And he said, don't forget, keep the commandments. Everyone has to stand before God in judgment after he dies. Well, now the second person that I want to cite as an expert on death is Jesus. And you all know Jesus' credentials. I mean, Jesus was the Messiah. Jesus was God's Son. Jesus is God. Jesus was there with God in the beginning. Jesus created everything. When Jesus was on the earth, he did all those miracles. He calmed the sea, changed the water into wine, raised people from the dead, did all those things. I think that Jesus might have something intelligent to say about death. And Jesus had a lot to say about death. And if Jesus was here right now, I think what he'd tell you, I think he'd say, Solomon had it right. Everything that Solomon said, that's true. But let me explain things a little more accurately. He said, Solomon was right. Everybody dies, but I want you to know, death is not the end. Death is the start of eternity. Yes, your body is going to die, but you're going to live on into eternity. Solomon had it right. Enjoy the good things God gives you. Enjoy the work that God gives you to do. Enjoy your food. Enjoy your family. Enjoy your friends. But what you want to remember is, I'm not going to promise you that life is easy. In fact, I can tell you life is hard. There's going to be difficulties and all kinds of hardships that you're going to need to go through in life. But, if you believe in me and you trust me, I, Jesus, not Al, but Jesus, will help you through the difficulties of this life. And after you die, that's when you're going to get your rewards. You're not going to get your rewards in this life. Don't count on getting your rewards in this life. But the rewards will come in the next life. And he said, Solomon is right. You are going to have to stand in front of the judgment seat. And in fact, Jesus, he is the one that's going to be judging people. He said, Solomon is right. He said, but, if you believe in me, if you believe that I'm the Messiah, the Son of the living God who was crucified, died, and rose again from the dead, if you believe that, then when you stand in front of judgment, if you're sorry for your sins, when you stand in front of your judgment, I'm going to forget all about your sins. I'm going to completely forget about them. And I'm going to take you, and I'm going to bring you to heaven. I'm going to give you a resurrected body and take you right to heaven, where you're going to be with the Father and me forever. And there is where you're going to get your rewards. So what does Jesus say? Jesus on death, he says this. He says, everybody's going to die. Everybody's going to die, but death is not the end. He's saying, enjoy the life that you have, but don't expect it to be easy. But Jesus will help you through. And when you die, yes, you're going to have to stand in front of judgment. But if you believe, Jesus is going to forget your sins, and he's going to give you a resurrected body and bring you to heaven, where you're going to get your rewards. If Jesus was here right now, he'd say, don't be afraid of death. Just believe. Please, don't be afraid of death. Just believe. I came down to heaven for you. I came down to heaven to die, to pay the penalty for your sins, so that you can be with me in heaven. I want to be with you in heaven. Don't be afraid of death. Please believe.